You're listening to a Soul One podcast.
Well, I gotta say, I feel like this conversation today was gonna be one thing, and now it's gonna be a lot of other things because we're ready to review Emilia Pérez, and I kind of went into it, Taylor, with the sense of, oh, I wonder why it's nominated for so many awards. Let's check this out. To, well, not only do we have to talk about the movie, but like there's a lot going on with this entire movie.
Very, very controversial. I already knew, so probably around the time of the Golden Globes, I started hearing some controversy about the movie, but nothing specific. The Mexican community doesn't really like it. The trans community doesn't really like it. But again, I didn't know the specifics as to why people weren't liking the movie.
Taylor, just right there, that sentence alone would be enough for me to be like, if I was working on this, to be like, we have failed. Like no one likes this. that would be it. Like if you and I said, our podcast every week, movie fans don't like it, comedy enthusiasts don't like it, people who know us well don't like it. It's like, what? Then who is this for?
Hang up the towel.
Yeah.
I knew a little bit about that, right? Nothing specific. I knew on surface level this probably wasn't going to be a movie for me. Like cast wise, the fact that it was a modern musical, whatever. Lots of reasons why I didn't think this would be a movie for me. And in fact, Mike, I was hoping I could not watch it at all. And then when it was nominated for 13 Oscars?
13.
And it's the most nominated movie for the Oscars. So I thought, I can't do that to Mike. I can't let him be the one to watch all of the crummy movies. Like, I have to take one for the team. And so I watched it. And Mike, do you want to read the text exchange we had about this movie?
Sure. So I guess it all kind of begins with the last text you sent my old phone.
Right.
Which was, so this is Taylor, I'm going to get over it and watch Emilia Pérez this weekend. Then several days later, because I didn't have a phone, I said, did you watch it yet? Taylor, yes, this is this afternoon. Awful. Mike, okay, I thought so too. I thought maybe I watched the wrong movie. For pure volume of nominations, I'm so confused. This was so bad, right? That was our conversation.
Yeah. So I just thought, I didn't think I could do justice recounting how you responded. I thought that was, number one, I thought, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, I guess I got the Catholic schoolgirl in me. I think like immediately I'm in trouble all the time. So when you were like, have you watched it yet? I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like what did I do? Was I not supposed to watch it? Does he want me to watch a different movie? Like what? That was my first.
Oh, I didn't know all this subtext.
My first impulse. And then you were like, because we text backstory. We text very, 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 very rarely. Like it's literally typically for me to say what movie I'm watching, confirming what time we're going to record at, like very minimal. So when you said, have you watched it yet? I thought, what? Uh-oh. And then for you to be like, I thought I was watching the wrong movie.
Yes.
I think that completely encapsulates, is that the word? I think that completely sums up the movie going experience of this movie. That like cognitive dissonance, being like, this is the most celebrated movie of the award season, and then watching and being like, is something, and then I second guessed myself, Mike. Then I thought like, oh no, like Emilia Pérez straight to Netflix. That's the movie, right? And even on Netflix it says Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
But
I was just like, so it took me 3 times to watch this movie. I had to do this over 3 sittings because I couldn't do it. And every time I'm like, this has to be wrong. Like something, like, am I being punked? Where's Ashton Kutcher? Is he gonna pop out of the corner and say, "I just got punked"? That was a show, right? That was him, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know my
Your
reference was
millennial
on par.
reference was correct.
That's right. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, because our listeners are younger, Ashton Kutcher used to have this show called Punked, where he would trick people. It's like
Prank
hidden camera show, right? Like prank show. I don't know why it was him. I still don't understand.
That's what a blast from the past. Why was he? Was that at the same time as that 70s show, or was that what he did?
Same time. No, it's the exact same time. Like he was on it 70s show and this for some reason.
And he would prank his celebrity friends.
Yeah,
and
they
were pretty good. Yeah. They were pretty good pranks.
They were good.
You don't really see that much anymore. The kid from Stranger Things was on a paranormal version. Where the pranks were paranormal in nature, which was quite good a couple years ago. I like those. There was
one they did where they find celebrities who are like borderline famous, and they put them in situations where people would like recognize them, but they don't tell. Like Wayne Brady did one, and the show was something like "Don't I Know You from This" or something. Like it had some sort of name like that, and that I thought was pretty funny, where they put these celebrities who like aren't the most famous, and sometimes, like as a special episode, they would be someone really famous, and they would pretend they're just a normal person. Like, oh, I get that all the time.
Yeah, like
people say, yeah, and
I look like Wayne Brady. I know, like
yeah, exactly. And people be like, no, but I think you're Wayne Brady. You're like, yeah, I hear that all the time. And it was just, I thought that was one of the funniest shows I've ever seen.
That's a pretty good setup, because I was gonna say I like the prank shows where the pranks are harmless, but in reality, no prank is harmless. Like if it's a good prank, the person's heart rate's going to elevate. They're going to be sweating. You know what I mean? Like there's no such thing as like a victimless prank.
Well, the pranks, I think the pranks that are good when you're like not expecting someone to like show up to something. Like sometimes celebrities, like especially that happens a lot at Comic-Con, where people will like come and take a picture with like just a stand-in, but then the person will show up.
Is that a prank though, or just a nice surprise?
I guess it's a nice surprise. It's kind of pranking them, because like the guy who played Loki, Tom Hiddleston, he used to do this all the time. Like he was really good with his fans. He would always go to Comic-Cons, but he would like first he would dress up in like some costume where you couldn't recognize him, and he'd like walk the floor, and then people would go like to the Loki section, take a picture with someone who looks like Loki, and then he would like appear in the he would just like get into the photo. So after the photo's taken, they then notice that he swapped out and it's him. Yeah, like so that's kind of a prank. I guess it's a nice prank, but it's like.
But you couldn't watch a whole show of that.
I could.
Over and over and over again.
No, every once in a while you gotta spray someone with water or something. Yeah. Sure.
Exactly, or set their car on fire and it's not their car, stuff like that. That's what Ashton Kutcher would do. He would, crash their car.
But he did it to celebrities, so it was funny.
Yeah,
like
true.
Because
they can afford it.
To just a person, yeah. And did you? So we're really digressing, but this is funny because you watched most of I Think You Should Leave.
Oh, all of it, yeah. One of my favorite shows.
Where they do the prank parody where he dresses up like the old man.
Dan and I love that.
He's just finished with like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Hot. It's so hot in here.
Yeah.
That's the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So anyways, we'll get back to Emilia Pérez. That's right. Mike and I felt like we were punked. I was expecting it to not be good though, just because typically and I called this maybe a week or two ago when I said this was going to be Green Book all over again. But one of the most celebrated movies.
Sure, but Green Book
was okay.
Was a better, yeah, like is a
like
better
a technically fine movie.
That's right. Like even because the other comparable that people are saying is Crash, when Crash won a lot of Academy Awards. But the thing is that Crash and Green Book, for many of their problems, are well put together, crafted films. Like to me, Green Book's biggest issue is how dated it feels for film.
Yeah, it felt like a movie from like 1998.
That's right. Emilia Pérez, to me, the biggest difference is I don't even think like it just felt so low budget to me that if it was never nominated for an award and I stumbled upon this movie and watched it, I honestly wouldn't just given it a second thought. I've been like, oh, that was weird. I don't know why Zoe Saldana's in this. That's kind of an odd movie.
And
Not
Selena
really great.
Gomez.
And Selena Gomez. Finally, I found her. And
she had a pretty big part too, Mike.
She did. I know, but I couldn't find her. I took it. I was
the blonde
looking.
hair.
Yeah, the blonde hair completely threw me off. But I wouldn't have really given this a second thought because it just felt like a low budget, poorly put together movie that, like sometimes international films, they don't have as much money as other companies. They're not quite Hollywood standard, but that doesn't mean you can't get some great international films. There's plenty of low budget movies that I think are quite good. But often when I'm watching a low budget movie, if it's like meh or bad, I'm like, oh, okay, well, whatever. That didn't really work for me. Not really good.
I think
well developed.
So you mentioned that it's an international film. I want to start there. That's part of the that's like we got to go point by point for the controversy.
All right,
so
let's start there.
I was blown away to find out this was a French movie.
Well, French, Belgium, and Mexico.
Okay. So
I think
involved. I think the filmmaker is French. Like the
filmmaker is French, and because the main producer is French, I think it goes under
it. Yeah, it's France a French
but technically Belgium and Mexico in terms of like involvement were heavily involved. So it is classified under all three, but according to awards rules, when you have your director and main producer from France, it then therefore becomes a France movie, but the funding came from those three countries.
So I didn't know that. I thought I asked you last week, what makes an international movie? Because I thought 100% this was an American movie.
Yeah,
and I could not wrap my head around. So I started watching the movie and everyone's speaking Spanish, which is fine. But I'm like, actually, backtrack. The opening credits, it says like, film France or whatever, like a French movie. And then they start speaking Spanish. And I'm like, what is happening? Because of Zoe what's her last name? Zoe
Saldana.
Yeah, that one. And Selena Gomez. I assumed it was an American movie, and I assumed it would be in English. And that was not the case. The movie is predominantly in Spanish. That's not the controversy or like a criticism. It's just already I was thrown through a loop finding out this was a French movie spoken majority in Spanish. So already I was like, what? So part of the criticism that this movie is getting, and Mike, you might know a little bit more than I do. The movie takes, for those who haven't seen it yet, and maybe don't, but those who haven't seen it, the premise of the movie is there's a Mexican drug cartel leader, like a drug kingpin, and he hires Zoe's character, who's a lawyer in Mexico City, to help him transition into being a woman, to essentially escape his life of crime. So a lot of the criticism that I've read about is that the Mexican community feels like it's really, well, number one, they didn't hire Mexican actors, and I guess the filmmaker said there wasn't good enough talent in Mexico to hire.
Yeah, that's almost and Taylor, you do paraphrase a lot, but I gotta tell you, that's almost an exact quote. Like, I've never seen someone say that you're a really bad actor like to like a group of people, where it's just like, what? First of all, that's in writing, and second of all, how can you say that about an entire country that there's no one who's good at?
Also, just
that's ridiculous.
Not
that is a ridiculous
just like
statement.
categorically not true, because there are Mexican actresses who have transitioned into Hollywood.
Of course.
So it's like
it has to be fundamentally untrue, because you discount.
Well, number one is racist. So like,
that's right. Of course, it's not true. It's racist.
So there's that, but then there's so that's why we have and I don't know, Mike, the lead who plays the drug lord who becomes Emilia Perez. I forget her name.
I
Carla
yeah,
something.
I don't remember her name before she becomes
I don't
Emilia
know. I think she's a native
Perez.
Spanish speaker, but she might be from Spain. I don't think she's Mexican.
I don't know anything. You mean you're talking about the actor?
Yeah. Is she from
Oh, I
Mexico?
don't know anything about her actually. I know she's Spanish. I just don't know from where. Like I
Right.
don't know where she's from.
So,
I can look that up though. I can
because
check.
if all
Oh, she's
three,
from
I like,
Spain.
okay, yeah.
Born in
So,
Spain.
all three lead actresses who are portraying, well, Zoe's character is from, I want to say, the Dominican Republic, but still, she's
That's right.
not from the Dominican Republic. That's, I don't, here's, this is where the conversation gets a little sticky. I'm not one of those people who say just because you're from X place doesn't mean you can't portray X character.
Sure.
But it's
Sure.
literally set in Mexico City and they're speaking Spanish. Why wouldn't you
Well,
hire a Mexican actress?
yeah, I mean, even if you're, for whatever reason, there are limitations in the kind of story. Let's just say, for Emilia Perez, you got the perfect person. Okay, this is who we want. Right, it works on so many levels. Okay, fine. So then your support cast, Selena Gomez's character, Zoe Saldana's character, then make the effort and say, okay, now let's make sure that the rest of our cast is filled with actors, performers here from Mexico. And I just don't accept it from anyone that oh well, there are not enough talented people. If you had enough money to hire Zoe Saldana and Selena Gomez, you could have auditions
Anyone.
and go through a process in anyone in Mexico. Like you could have anyone in half of the world. Like those
Yeah.
Zoe Saldana is in everything and does not need to do this movie. She's got mad money.
So does Selena Gomez.
Yeah, for like different things though.
But she's rich. But my point being, she's rich too. It's not like she needed the role.
Oh no, Selena Gomez doesn't need to do this either. But Zoe Saldana has been in some of the highest grossing movies of all time. Like she's in the Star Trek new movie series. She's in Avatar, Guardians of the Galaxy. She doesn't need this, no. Right? Like you could easily have cast in Mexico. So the fact is that you brought this up, Taylor. This is only scratching the surface.
Yeah, that's
the problems
because
this is just the director. Who's French, right? We haven't even gotten to the rest.
Just say like, oh, we like a more reasonable explanation, and one that would have covered his butt a little bit more would have been like, we wanted bankable stars to like, we went with two of the most bankable stars in America because we thought that it would be easier to promote. I'm not saying that's the right answer, but it's certainly the more politically correct answer than to say we couldn't find any good Mexican actresses.
It's certainly, I mean, the worst thing is it starts a conversation over why, anyone from Mexico is not getting the same kind of level of attention. Because you're right, there's actually, I'm sure if we sat down for a minute, we could come up with people who grew up in Mexico or had Mexican descent who are actors. Like I can think of only two or three.
Salma Hayek,
Diego Luna. Like those are the people.
I wanted to make sure I was gonna list Salma Hayek, but I also didn't know she was specifically from Mexico, so I had to look that up. But
yeah, and Diego Luna, who was in the most popular Star Wars TV show that they did, Andor. He's from Mexico. So like those are again, that's only two I can think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's more. And the point is that you made a good point there of there's lots of people from all different parts of the world who have made successful transitions to Hollywood acting, theater in New York and all these like other places. There's no way you couldn't have found people if you wanted to try. I don't think they wanted to for whatever reason.
No.
Yeah, it's not the perfect answer to say I wanted bankable stars, but at least that's an answer.
It's not the outright racist answer.
That's right. It's not being racist. Exactly. That's right. You had a choice between racist and not, and he just was sort of leaned right into it. Yeah.
So the other complaint from the Mexican community, and again, you don't want to paint with a broad paintbrush, but essentially people from Mexico have complained that it really is a one-dimensional story about Mexico, and the characters are really one-dimensional. It essentially paints everyone in Mexico as a drug involved in the drug cartels, paid off by the drug cartels, or a victim of the drug cartels. Now,
Doesn't
I
it
don't know.
feel like an American movie when you say that though? Like, is it because that's
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of the ways that Hollywood movies in the
sure.
past have depicted Mexico, and there's always this feeling, especially I think in the arts industry of Hollywood and these other places, when they tell these kinds of stories that Mexicans often get put in that category. If you do
Yeah,
something in Mexico, it's always about the drug cartel. It's always everyone's
they're
always connected to it.
criminals.
Criminals, yeah, and like it's such a tired rhetoric that's been going on for so long that that's another reason why you sit there and go, "Oh, is this a Hollywood movie? Like this is an
Yeah,
American movie?" Like yeah,
it was very strange. I understand that the story I just laugh because it's the story itself is so in my mind, and people might come for me for this, but like it's just kind of a stupid story to begin
well,
with.
I
Like
think
the plot
like
is just so
yeah,
fantastical.
yes, and I think the instinct to try to make it a musical because of the fantastical elements is sort of the route that they
I
were
guess
going. It
it's
just didn't
based on an
work.
operetto,
It
Mike.
is,
That's
yeah, it
the
is, yeah,
adaptation. I asked you also last week if you knew why it was an adaptation and you weren't sure. I
yeah.
guess the filmmaker made it operetto. Is that the right
Yes,
term?
operetta, yeah,
Operetta. And
operetta.
so this is the film adaptation of it.
Adaptation
So
of the operetta, yeah.
um
And but it's interesting because like it the way you described the plot, and if you just wrote it down on paper, I would look at that and go, okay, like that's interesting. There's dynamics here. There's things you could do with it.
yeah,
Like
the
that
first
could
20
be,
minutes of the movie.
yeah. Like this could be an interesting place to go. The execution of it was just so like it wasn't even that it was like lackluster or disappointing or boring. It was just dumb. Like it
Well,
just
so
nothing worked for me
you know
in
from the
this movie.
beginning, like all the press. I haven't seen a trailer for this movie, so I don't know if it's revealed in the trailer, but certainly all of the plot synopses I've read have summed it up as a lawyer is hired to provide a gender transition or to acquire a
Mhm,
gender
mhm.
transition whatever for this drug lord. So you know immediately that's what is going to happen. So like that all that action happens in the first 20 minutes, I would
Yeah,
say. And then for the next 2 hours it's like a time jump 4 years and how the crime lord is living their life as a woman. And it's like I don't know, like I just it's just part of me. I'm like, that's so like, is no one wondering where this so I guess the Emilia Perez character, I'm assuming, is kind of under the radar for the 4 years, Mike. And
that's what I would assume, yeah.
then she becomes the most prominent person in Mexico City. And you're telling me no one Wikipedia'd this woman to be like, oh, she has no history, 4
Well, I
years.
thought that was part of what Zoe Saldana's
She
job
like
was to
built.
do, was to build. I thought that was in there somewhere.
I
Like
guess
that just to build
that's
kind of this background, and that's what the 4 years was like the slow build of this sort of
okay.
persona that would come out, so to help with the quick Wikipediaing, because that's the thing of this movie being like a modern setting. It would take not very long to build a background or persona for a person. Like that is very realistic and possible,
Okay.
and
For
you
me,
would
I'm
be
like,
able
that's
to hire a lawyer to do that. Yeah.
I thought that was too fantastic. I thought this person comes out of nowhere and people are just going to accept her as like a leading advocate for
I
their community.
I'm not even kidding. I probably could build you a new persona in a couple of months, Taylor. Like I could like there's enough
All right.
internet control out there you have that you can build. But I think I thought there was something in there about part of the role that Zoe Saldana had to play was also helping to develop the next steps. Like
All right.
once the
I retract that comment. So we'll move on.
but again, what you're saying is, right, there's a time jump, there's a big question left unanswered, and the movie doesn't do a good enough job to explain what the heck is going on.
You're kind of
Right?
just
Like that's
thrown
right.
into their lives 4 years later. So Selena Gomez plays the wife of the former drug dealer, because I forget their name before they became a
Before
woman.
Amelia
But
Pet. Yeah, I
like
don't
Amelia
remember.
Perez is the transitioned drug dealer. So
that's right.
Selena Gomez plays the wife, and she kind of just has this, it like, again, like sloppy writing to me, Mike. I don't know, maybe things are different in an opera and maybe this is like, it doesn't translate in the medium, but I felt like Selena Gomez's storyline was so shoehorned into this movie until the very end. And then I'm like, oh, that's why she was a character in this movie. Like, it just felt so, I guess they were trying to portray,
now
this person tries to leave their former life and they're starting a new life, but they're not able to
yes,
move away from their old life.
yeah,
I guess
that's kind of
that's
the
what
idea. Wait, so hold on. Wait, I gotta look this up. Was it an opera or an operetta?
an
Because those are two different
operetta.
things. Operetta? Okay. So technically an operetta and an opera are two different things.
Okay.
Right? So an operetta is like a musical theater version of an opera where it's sung all the way through, but it's not in the classic opera style with the opera tropes. Like an
Okay.
operetta would be like Les Mis. Les Miserables
So
is an operetta because it's sung all the way through.
okay, so that like it has nothing to do about pacing. Okay, so like
No,
no,
no, no,
again,
no,
that's
no,
just poor
not at
writing.
all. That
That's
would be
just
poor writing.
that's
Right.
just
Yeah.
poor writing. So that's um the other major complaint of this movie is from the trans community. Just while we're talking about these
Yes.
major plot points, it's a good time to bring up the second major controversy of many.
Where's this the third?
Yeah,
we got the director, we got the Mexican community, and we got the trans community.
I've lost
No one's
count.
happy.
I've lost count. And then we haven't even mentioned the controversy surrounding the lead actress who plays Emilia Pérez.
I know. That's the thing, Taylor. We are 26 minutes into the show, and we haven't even gotten to one of the biggest controversies. But yes, let's go over the trans community reaction as well. Let's talk about that.
So this movie, and I obviously can't speak for the Mexican community, and I certainly can't speak for the trans community. So this is all what I'm sharing with our listeners, is all what I've read online. But the trans community has kind of disowned this movie, or they don't like this movie because they find, like the Mexican community, they find the trans portrayal very one dimensional. The fact that it's the emphasis is on the surgery. There's only one trans person in the whole movie, so like they just think it's a very poor portrayal of the trans experience, just like the Mexican community feels like it's a poor portrayal of the Mexican experience. So it's like no one's coming out. And I think, Mike, that the director is just this like, and I could be wrong, and I maybe shouldn't even say this because I'm going to get in trouble, but I'll phrase it this way so I don't get in trouble, Mike. The film director is neither Mexican nor trans, and has just like chosen these communities to tell this strange musical story.
He's a French director I don't know much about, but yeah,
I could
as far
definitely
as I understand, he has no real connection to any of this material.
Right. And again, I'm longtime listeners of the show know that I'm very permissive when it comes to the arts. I wouldn't go so far as to say that I'm Scarlett Johansson, who says that she can portray a tree, because
no,
whatever. That's
completely forgot.
We don't have time to go into that, but you can Google Scarlett Johansson says she can play a tree. I wouldn't go so far as to say that, but I definitely am very permissive. I think you don't have to be that person's nationality. You don't have to be that person's sex. You can write a story. A man can write a story about a woman. A woman can write a story about a man. I'm not that. I'm very whatever when it comes to that. But in this case, Mike,
but it's where they've gotten about the experience, right?
And they've gotten it so wrong.
That's right. Like, okay, I agree with you. And as someone who directs things, like I've directed theater, I have told stories or directed stories that are not necessarily connected to my own experiences. But you have to do, I think, your due diligence and research and talk and try to kind of work through it. But also, generally, the main focal point of what I'm working on is not the experience of this particular group that I'm not part of. Like, to me, that I think that's a little different. If I want to tell a story about the trans experience in Mexico, during the drug cartel, when this guy lives in France. Like, that's
Yeah, like
what's it's
why?
just
Like
why
why
that
do that?
like again, maybe he's so passionate about it, etc. But clearly, when everyone's upset, it probably means you didn't even do your due diligence to try. When it comes to you can solve this problem with consultants, with support, with writing teams, right? Like, that's what you do. You bring on groups to say, hey, can you help with this? Can you help develop this? I want to make sure I'm getting things, the way it should be. And it sounds to me like he didn't do it. I mean, we don't know the process, but when
No idea.
everyone's this upset, that's what it certainly sounds like.
Or he surrounded himself with people who had a very similar vision to his, and no one provided constructive feedback. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and you never
maybe
know, right? Like, one person isn't the authority on an entire group of
it
people,
kind of
right?
feels
So,
like him being like, and
yeah.
oh well, I have a Mexican friend, so like I'm not racist. That's
Oh
kind of
man.
what I
Oh
have
man.
one Mexican friend.
That is
That's
such a weird thing that people keep saying when they get in trouble. Where
oh
they
well,
because
my one
you
African
know,
American friend said I'm
that's right.
allowed
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. So even if, let's just say for 1 second that that's true, no individual can represent the thoughts, feelings, emotions, or reactions of an entire group, right? So it doesn't matter what you may know and what you may know. Like, you clearly made an error because this is the way people react. And opinions are opinions. If it's a handful of people, it's a handful of people. It seems like it's a lot bigger than that. It
I
seems like there's a lot more anger
I
and
think
people upset about this.
this is how I look at it, Mike. I think he could have easily, and again, I apologize. We haven't said the name of the director. I don't know this director. I don't know if he's well
No,
known in
I said it.
France.
I said it.
Oh,
Jacques Aldred.
right. I
Yeah,
don't know if he's
Jacques
well known.
Aldred.
I have no idea about this guy. But this movie easily could have been about a French tech billionaire committing crimes in France or whatever the equivalent
Or
is.
he could have moved to Mexico. It's like, if that's where you're set, like, you can set your movie anywhere you want, but it just felt like this was so
I
ingrained.
just felt like it didn't have to be Mexico. You know what I
No,
mean?
it
Like,
didn't.
you
No,
know
I don't
you
know.
know
Yeah,
France better, so you might as well why didn't you set your movie in France?
because the operetta, which, now hold on, he wrote the operetta,
But it might be based on a book. The operetta
but
might be based on a book.
okay, well, it said, okay, yes, okay, so the operetta is based on a book by Boris Razin.
I don't know.
So
It
there's a
just
book, an opera, and now this movie. And
and
so
I
Boris Razin is an author, uh, and is no, what? I don't. There's like no information on this person.
yeah, because it's this weird story that never should have been made into a
He was
book.
born in France,
So another French.
but he looks like his family grew up. Okay, looks like he's got Mexican heritage. It
Okay.
says here. So it looks like his family, some of the members of his family were from Mexico, some were from France, Spain, and Russia. Okay, so it's like a whole, it's got a mixed
Hodgepodge.
background. Yeah, it's a hodgepodge. He himself was born in France, but has obviously other
Cultural roots.
cultural roots. Yeah, yeah.
It's
Okay.
just so all that controversy. I guess we should have just reviewed the movie and then talked about the controversy, or who knows? It's
What's there to review in the movie?
Yeah.
It was a piece
Also,
of
like,
trash.
they're so like intertwined. Now it's hard to not talk about the controversy point by point.
Well, I actually think the controversy is what most people will be talking about, because the movie is so bad that I think this is really, really going to negatively impact their ability to win any Oscars. Like, I think their push for Oscars are over.
It would be interesting because of all the controversy. And I didn't hear this controversy prior to the Golden Globes. So
no.
But maybe the Mexican community and the trans community have long been complaining about this movie. I shouldn't say complaining. Criticizing this movie. I don't know. But I certainly didn't hear anything until the Golden Globes. It almost feels like the movie should be pulled. Like, it shouldn't be part of the race with how much controversy there is, Mike. But maybe that's like my knee jerk reaction. Like, I it's not a good movie, and there's been such widespread criticism. It's like, how is this movie nominated? I don't understand. Like, you're right. Like, objectively, it's not a good movie.
How is it nominated to begin with?
Yeah, well, yeah. So, like, how is it nominated to begin with?
Oh, I don't know.
And then also, can you pull a movie if it's been nominated? Like, now that
no, you can't pull it. But I just think the vote's still going to.
They just won't.
Like how it works is after the nominations are put together, there's a second ballot that goes out. So instead of writing your nominations, now you're just making your vote.
Right.
Like you're voting on what you want to win. I think Emilia Pérez will just not get as many votes for various categories as it would have. Now, even to begin with, let's toss aside all the racism for a second. We haven't even gotten to the lead performer here, Carla Sofia Gaston.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten to her comments yet, so we'll get there. But let's just toss all that aside for 2 seconds. When I was watching this movie, I was trying to think, okay, like what's awards worthy out of this? Like, the music's really bad. The cinematography is not very good. There are some like moments or tricks or like little things that are done. Like, okay, that's a little dynamic, but nothing that I wouldn't expect out of like a pretty good film student. Like, it felt like a low budget movie to me. Like, the whole time I was watching the film, like, I don't even think this is well put together. I don't know what you would nominate it for. That's part of the mystery for me. Before even hearing about the controversy, I was going to come into this show, Taylor, and say, we have a mystery to solve. How is this nominated for so many Oscars? But instead, we couldn't do that because I got dumped with information. It's just coming through to me of like, here's this and this and this, and there's another wave, and there's another wave. And we haven't even scratched the surface. I have a headache. It's
so here's one thing that's been I've been dying to ask you this, Mike. It's been going around my head since watching the movie, even while I was watching this movie. About halfway through, it stops being a musical. Like, there's like the first half of the movie,
there's not really a song for a very long time.
That's what I mean. Like, the first half of the movie, I would say, had like, I felt like it had typical musical movie pacing where there was a song, then some action. There was a song, then some action. Like, the songs felt peppered in appropriately. And then maybe around the halfway mark, maybe a little bit later, like probably half an hour, no song. Like, it felt so weird to me.
That unfortunately does sometimes happen.
Okay.
In both musical theater and movie musicals, I noticed. Now this was a little bit of a extended period of time, but I will say that the problem you're describing,
isn't unique to this movie.
Yeah, which is odd. Like, I get it's really strange, but it's not overly unique, and I don't think like that alone would be enough to be like, this is a disaster. Like, because this is interesting. I really want to know your thoughts on this, Taylor, just because you watch so many movies. Cinematography wise, production quality, acting, performances, the singing, like just the music, everything. Didn't you find it like just bad?
I didn't find it good. I think like okay, Zoe, right. I can't pronounce her name. Saldana, I'm just gonna call her Zoe. I think she gave like certainly a good acting performance. She's a good actress. I don't think there were certain moments where I thought she's singing fairly strong, and then other parts where I thought like, this is laughable. Like, this is not. Nicole, I hope you don't mind me stealing your line. I don't know if she listens to the show on a regular basis anymore, but Nicole said she's been watching the clip of when she's interviewing. I think they're in she's the first surgeon she's interviewing, and they're kind of talk singing in English, and Nicole described it as it's not even camp. Like, it's just bad. And it's like that to me, I do not know what they were going for. And also the two songs where she's talking to the plastic surgeons stand out to me as very poorly written, very poorly directed, poorly acted.
That is a terrible song. And I mean, it's kind of the one that's getting tossed around a lot because of just how bad it is. I mean, I think there's other bad songs in it as well. Now, I don't know if we touched upon this at all, but even some of the controversy, I was actually sent something to review, and I've got to look this over. But apparently, even the Spanish was bad.
Yes. So I read that Selena Gomez, her parents are Mexican immigrants. I believe she was born in America, but her family, I don't know. I don't want to say, because I read one thing that her father is a Mexican immigrant, but then I read another thing that her parents are not immigrants. So anyways, I can't quote it, but she's of Mexican ancestry. So I guess she had to relearn Spanish. She had forgotten her Spanish language, which is not unusual. The child of immigrants or whatever, it's not unusual to lose your native language. But I guess her Spanish, again, is just laughable. Like, apparently her accent is just horrible. She also doesn't speak with a Spanish accent through the movie. She's the only character when she's speaking English to not have an accent, which was confusing for the characterization because I didn't know if she was supposed to be American or Mexican. I didn't know. That was weird. So, but the most criticism I've read has been about Selena Gomez. Did everyone else also get bad critiques on their Spanish?
Everybody did. Everybody. It's across the board. And that's the thing, like, you know,
I can't tell the difference. I don't speak Spanish. I have no idea.
No, I have no idea. I'm being told this. I'm getting information, and it's just, part of me, Taylor, is just like, I really hope this never happens to me. Like, it just seems like such a disaster and a mess. Like, you couldn't even get the Spanish right? Like, why would you do this to yourself by setting yourself up for failure by being like, and I'm going to put it over here. Like, there's,
and give me my Academy Award.
Yes. And it's such a laughable film. I don't even, I can't get over how not great it is. Yeah, there are moments and there's little bits of it where I think I said this already. I probably just wouldn't have given this a second thought. I don't even think I would have reviewed it on our show.
No.
Like, this isn't great.
Skip
but
it.
Okay, maybe it's not horrible, but it's definitely a skip it. But, we don't really have to talk about this. There's not much to say about it. The controversy and everything around it, and the kind of uniqueness to the controversy, because I'm just so confused by everything, because you got it all wrong, and then your lead comes out and it's just like completely everything's wrong, and he's saying not great things, not really defending herself very well, and it's just everything is getting so much worse that it's almost laughable, where it's like, how could you possibly continue to screw this up?
So you've alluded a little bit to the controversy with the lead. I have not. I guess the lead texted around the time of George Floyd's murder. So this would have been like, what, 2017? 2016?
So it would have been a year or two before the pandemic, right?
Yeah. So I don't remember the exact timeline, but while those events were unfolding, this person tweeted about these things. I have not read the tweets, Mike. They've now been deleted, but everything's forever on the internet, so you can probably find screenshots. But I have not read it, but apparently, allegedly, it was quite racist, the tweet.
Yeah, so there are several. I read a few of them. There's more than one. I've read a few of them. This is what I will say. For the most part, they're not good. There's a couple that are like kind of stretches, like out of context. Right. It's kind of hard and like, okay, you might be blowing this up a little bit, mountain out of a molehill. But there's so many of them that out of like the 15 I saw, yeah, maybe about 4
collectively,
like, yeah, that's kind of not good, but like, that's kind of a stretch. Then there were like 11 that were not great. And I think what makes it worse, I was reading this, and there's a really good video that I can send you, Taylor, that like It's only like 25 minutes long.
It
but
breaks down
breaks down this YouTuber that I like, who does a lot of reviews, breaks down the scenario, and he kind of reads the three major responses that Carla Sofia Gascon put out there, and it gets progressively worse. Like, it starts off with like a mediocre apology.
These are their like reset, like the recent apologies, correct? Because this
right.
broke
Yeah,
like this week.
Yeah, one on X before X was deleted, and one on Instagram.
Got it.
And all three of them progressively get worse. Like, it starts off with like kind of a half apology, like more, you know how it is, where it's like, I'm sorry you were hurt. Not I'm sorry for what I said.
I'm sorry I got caught.
You were hurt. Yeah. But then it gets to like, I'm the victim here. And
just
again,
shut your mouth. Just don't say anything.
All situations are nuanced. And yes, if you look at the 15 tweets, yeah, some of the things she was saying, like, oh, these are taken out of context. Yep, those 4 are. Absolutely. What about these 11? Right? Like, a couple of them. You got a point, for sure. But what about these ones? And like, what about this? And what about this?
If you had kept it at 1, no one would be talking about this. But the fact that like you kind of have a record of not tweeting great stuff.
Some of the things she was saying didn't make a lot of sense, such as like, I'm a different person I was 20 years ago. These tweets are like 6 years old, not 20. That's number one. And the other big issue that like I had as I was reading, it was the apologies were so like transparently bad. Like,
right.
What is so wrong about coming out and saying
like damage control? They were just damage control.
Yeah, that's right. What is so wrong about coming out and saying, you know what? I apologize for what I said. When I said it, you could say I thought I was being ironic. I thought I was being funny. I'm attention seeking. It was bad. It was in poor taste. I've had some opinions that have changed over time. I've learned a lot over the past 6 years. None of that is excused any of the things I said. I am sorry. This is my fault. I'm at fault for this. The movie should not take blame for this. Absolutely blame me. That is fair. And I hope that one day you can, grow to forgive me. But I understand your anger. I understand your pain. And I apologize for the things that I said. What is so hard about that? That took me 13 seconds. And that's all you have to do.
Maybe it's a European thing. I don't know.
I don't know what it is. I'm
only kidding.
I don't know what it is, but I'm going to send you the video, Taylor, because I would love to hear your thoughts on it if you ever have time to watch it. I know you're busy, but I would love just to hear your thoughts on these apologies and how they progressively got worse and worse. I want to say one more thing, and this is just a quick side rant. I don't like when people go on social media to announce they're leaving social media. Like, just go.
Kind of defeats the purpose.
Just go. Yes, it kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? Like, okay, it's like you want us to say, "Oh, you're so brave." What a warrior you are. Just stay or go or do what. Yeah, like, I don't care what you do. But yeah, again, the damage control has been so bad, and the apologies were so bad that it's making the situation so much worse than it was.
I think because Carla Sofia was nominated for Best Actress. Was she not?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's safe to say they will not be winning Best Actress.
I think
if this movie was good.
I think it's safe to say that she's out of the running. Like, I don't think she's going to get a lot of votes. I still think Emilia Pérez could win in some other categories. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture or even Best International Film.
I think if it wins, again, controversy aside, Mike, if it wins Best Picture, the Academy needs to give their head a shake because it is not a good movie. And the communities I think it's supposed to be championing, as far as I can tell, they are like, no, we don't want this movie. So I really don't know who this this is for. And I thought it was not good. And like you said, the music's not particularly catchy. This was kind of funny. I thought there was one pretty emotional scene between Emilia Pérez and one of her kids, and the kid is singing. I thought it was a boy, but the review said it was the daughter. I guess I was just confused. One of the children was singing about the smell, like what their dad used to smell like. And I teared up, And when I was reading the Wikipedia article and they were complaining about all the lyrics, and they pointed that song out in particular being so horrible for the dialogue. I thought, oh, that was the only song that I was emotionally moved by.
I mean, think that wasn't the worst song though.
No, it was not the worst of the bunch. And they're like, oh, it's very one dimensional. It's a child singing about their dead dad from 4 years ago. Of course he's gonna. He smells like Coca-Cola and guacamole. Like, what do you expect?
The child song did not bother me.
No, that was probably the best part of the movie.
It's what the adults were doing in the whole movie that bothered me. Like, frankly, like it wasn't.
I will say that I forgave a little bit for the music because I am not a Spanish speaker, so I had to read the songs on the subtitles. So it was almost like I was busy reading the dialogue as opposed to listening to the songs. So I don't know how bad the songs were, except for those the songs that were sung in English. I'm thinking in particularly the two, because she's kind of interviewing two plastic surgeons, and almost like the first plastic surgeon song is horrible, and then I'm like, and you're following it up with the second one, which seems almost worse. So yeah, I don't know. I would say, like you said, Mike, I don't think the acting was particularly great. I don't think Selena Gomez was horrible, but I certainly don't think it was Oscar worthy.
No, I never thought like Selena Gomez.
She's fine,
and I would describe her as like a passable actor, but not necessarily like incredible. Like Zoe Saldana is.
Yes,
like, I think she's very, very good. But yeah, I don't think Selena Gomez is that good. I have a feeling if we were to sit down and like really go through this movie, you probably liked it slightly more than I did, but not by much.
No.
I think we both agree it's certainly not worthy of 13 Oscar nominations. Like, I don't even think, like, I would never nominate this for anything. Like, I
can't believe this movie got made.
Okay, well, I mean, a lot of movies get made. Let's not go that far.
It just seems so. It seems like a weird movie to me. This weird French movie with two Americans, one Spanish person. I was going to call them a Spaniard, but I don't know if that's.
I don't think that's the term.
Yeah, but one Spanish person and.
This is going well.
I'm gonna get canceled.
This episode will never air.
I apologize. I should have said Spaniard. I don't know if that's a term. I feel like I heard it somewhere, but that might not be the right thing. It might be gender specific. Like that's what you call a Spanish man, a Spaniard. No, I don't think it's.
I don't know. I'm already going to take some scissors to this episode anyway. So I'm trying to note all the moments just to be extra careful. Or I'm just going to release it raw and just like YOLO, like let the chips fall.
Here's the thing. I am not trying. If I've said anything controversial, it's truly out of ignorance. I am not trying to be spiteful or edgy.
I don't think there's anyone except those people who complained about you that one time who would say that that's whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm trying to navigate subject matter that I'm not familiar with.
No, and that's what makes it tough. But like I think it's a good conversation in terms of it makes it kind of tough to go through and walk through this movie being who we are, because at the beginning it's like, okay, like are there things in here that like I'm not going to understand because I simply don't understand them.
Sure.
But I don't think the movie ever reached that level. I think this was a bad movie.
It was surface level.
It was so surface level that maybe I could have made this. Like it was like, oh, I'm like I think even I'm a little bit like, I don't know if this is right. Like like there's just, it's so poorly put together. It's such an odd mess. And when you start looking into how this movie was made and what's going into it, it just leaves me with nothing but questions. Because Taylor, I don't understand how this got so many awards.
I don't know who likes this movie.
Every category. Who's this movie for and who likes it? Because everyone who you would claim, we've had conversations on this show before where we've talked about, oh, this movie's for this person and that's why you didn't like it. Okay, great. So who's this movie for? because no one seems to like
Yeah, like I don't think musical theater fans are going to be a fan of this movie.
I have not heard a single musical theater person say, "Oh, what a great movie this was." No,
especially
I don't.
when it's going up, Mike.
Against Wicked.
I'm just
It lost Best Musical at the Golden Globes to Wicked. You think anyone's happy about that?
Oh
No.
my gosh! Oh my gosh! It just, yeah. Like I'm just speechless. Now I'm trying to play back in my head what you want to cut out that I said. Hopefully you just want to cut out your own dialogue. But again, I apologize.
Oh, sorry. You already explained this. How did you say? Because you went to school as a Catholic. What did you say? Because
the Catholic schoolgirl in me feels bad.
Like what? So that's a thing. Like just because.
Like Catholic guilt.
You're like
Catholic guilt. Or just like.
Yeah. Have you seen those videos where it's like, oh, this is what an anxious person thinks when you're texting them. So they'll be like, okay, you hate me.
Yeah,
hey, period,
I guess it has less to do with me.
It's kind of like that.
Less to do with Catholic guilt and more just anxiety, I guess. But all I meant by that was that there's a trope that there's Catholic guilt, and so everything you do is you're guilty, and you're just. I didn't think that was like the least controversial thing.
Hey, the only thing I feel guilty about is that extra slice of chocolate cake,
There you go. There you go. You went to Catholic school though. Clearly the Catholic guilt didn't get ingrained in you.
I mean, that's I'm I don't think I paid attention enough.
Good for you. You didn't internalize it. I was only joking, but
I was internalizing a lot of other things in high school. Like I had enough to worry about without feeling guilty about things I didn't say and do. I got enough guilt on my own actions.
There you go. You don't have an institutional burden. So all that to say, Mike. I didn't think we'd be able to talk for an hour about this movie, but the controversy, like you said, the only thing to talk about with this movie is the controversy. This movie was a skip it for me. It's just, there isn't that many redeeming qualities for me. If that is to say, Mike, if one of our listeners saw it and loved it, please write in and change our minds.
Please. I would love to hear from anyone at all who saw this movie. I would love to.
Who liked it? Because I just am really gobsmacked. I think here's the thing, Mike, with the Oscar stuff. Normally, I think, oh yeah, that's an Oscar movie. They love to pat themselves on the back, like even if it's not a great movie. Sure. But like I can like get a sense, right? But with the controversy surrounding this movie, I think I wonder, like, what were they thinking? Again, like, who was this movie for, I guess? Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see how it performs. Part of me thinks that it's going to sweep the Oscars still because they are just so out of touch.
I just think because the voting hasn't happened yet. I don't think
you think they're going to be influenced by
I do.
About like
public opinion that it's the way to sway things, and I think there's just too much. There's too much noise. If there was maybe half of what we talked about was there, and the other half wasn't, then maybe they'd be fine. But yeah, I don't think so. Well, there you go. That's Emilia Pérez. That's all I have to say about this movie. Definitely a skip it. Thank you everybody for tuning in this week, and you'll hear from us next week.
Go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.